The stars seemed to shiver as the massive human vessel cut through the void. Commander Eliza Chen stood on the bridge of the HFY Indomitable, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of tactical displays. 30 years of military service had left her with more scars than she cared to count, but none compared to the wound that drove her now. The memory of Earth's colonies burning. "Status report," she demanded, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. Lieutenant Rivera's fingers danced across his console. "Approaching the Antares system, Commander. Stealth systems operating at peak efficiency. The collective has no idea we're here." Outside the reinforced viewports, the universe stretched endlessly, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere among those distant points of light, the Galactic Collective's leadership believed themselves untouchable. They had declared humanity a lesser species when Earth first reached for the stars. When diplomatic efforts failed, they'd tried to contain humanity's expansion. When containment failed, they'd resorted to extermination. Their mistake. "Weapons check," Chen ordered, her eyes never leaving the main display where the collective's primary shipyard slowly materialized from the darkness. The massive structure orbited a dying red giant, harvesting its energy to build the warships that had devastated human colonies across 3 sectors. "All systems green, Commander," replied Weapons Officer Tanner, his fingers hovering over the firing controls. "Quantum torpedoes primed. Relativistic cannons charged. Just say the word." Chen nodded, allowing herself a moment of grim satisfaction. For 2 decades, the collective had hunted humans across the galaxy, never imagining that their prey might someday corner them instead. The Indomitable was humanity's answer, a vessel built in secret, incorporating technologies the aliens never suspected humans could develop. "Commander," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Zhao." Chen straightened her uniform. "Put him through." The holographic display flickered, revealing the lined face of Admiral Victor Zhao, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. His expression remained unreadable, but Chen had served under him long enough to recognize the tension in his shoulders. "Commander Chen," he began, his voice carrying across 20 light years as if he stood beside her, "the Security Council has authorized Operation Endgame. You are cleared to proceed." Chen kept her face neutral despite the gravity of those words. Operation Endgame wasn't merely an attack. It was humanity's final gambit. The culmination of years of sacrifice, research, and preparation. "Understood, Admiral. We won't fail." "I know you won't." Zhao's expression softened momentarily. "The fate of our species rests with you, Eliza. Give them hell." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Chen felt the weight of 7 billion lives settling onto her shoulders. She turned to face her crew, the finest officers Earth had produced, each chosen for this mission, knowing they might never return home. "All hands to battle stations," she announced. "Begin final approach." The Indomitable's engines hummed with barely contained power as the massive vessel slipped through the void, a predator closing on unsuspecting prey. In the tactical center 2 decks below, Captain David Reese studied the holographic representation of the collective's shipyard with cold precision. As the Indomitable's second-in-command and tactical officer, he had spent months planning this assault. His fingers traced the outline of the alien structure's defenses. "See these nodes?" he said to the assembled strike team leaders. "These are their primary shield generators, our first targets." The soldiers around him, men and women who had lost homes, families, and worlds to the collective, nodded grimly. Chief among them was Major Sophia Torres, commander of the ship's Marine contingent and a survivor of the New Eden massacre. "My people will be ready," she promised, the light catching the artificial eye that had replaced the one lost during her escape from the colony. "Just get us on that station." Reese nodded. Torres's Marines were the best humanity had, enhanced with cutting-edge biotechnology and driven by a righteous fury. Once deployed, they would be unstoppable. Back on the bridge, Commander Chen watched as the alien shipyard grew larger on the main display. Within its sprawling structure, thousands of collective workers labored to build the vessels that would complete humanity's destruction. None of them had any idea that their doom approached. Lieutenant Riley at the science station cleared his throat. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures near the central hub. They appear to be testing a new weapon system." Chen's eyes narrowed. Intelligence had warned of this possibility. The collective's rumored planet killer technology that could reduce worlds to molten slag from a distance of millions of kilometers. If they perfected it before this mission succeeded. "Time to target?" she asked. 17 minutes, Commander," Navigation Officer Park replied. Chen nodded, making her decision. "Initiate Phase 1. Let's introduce ourselves." Throughout the Indomitable, crew members moved with practiced efficiency, every action the result of countless drills. In the launch bays, pilots climbed into advanced strike fighters. In engineering, technicians monitored the experimental drive that had carried them undetected through enemy space. And deep within the ship's core, Dr. Alexandra Novik made her final adjustments to the quantum disruption device, humanity's terrible answer to decades of collective aggression, a weapon not of destruction, but of transformation. "The calculations are complete," she reported via comlink, her voice tight with the knowledge of what she had created. "The device is ready." Chen acknowledged the report, trying not to dwell on the ethical implications. The device was a last resort, one the Security Council had authorized only after exhausting all other options. If the collective couldn't be defeated conventionally, they would be changed. "Multiple contacts," Lieutenant Rivera suddenly announced, his voice rising. "Collective patrol vessels on intercept course. They've spotted us." Chen remained outwardly calm even as adrenaline surged through her system. "Time to intercept." 3 minutes. 5 cruiser-class vessels. Too soon. They were still 14 minutes from optimal strike position. Someone in the collective had gotten lucky, or perhaps they'd been expecting trouble all along. "Launch fighter screen," Chen ordered. "Bring weapons systems online. Maintain course." As the first energy beams from the collective cruisers lanced through space toward the Indomitable, Chen thought of Earth. Beautiful blue Earth, the cradle of humanity that the collective had dismissed as insignificant. She thought of the colonies reduced to ash, of refugee ships hunted down, of the billions dead, and the billions more who would die if this mission failed. The Indomitable's shields flared as they absorbed the enemy's initial salvo. Behind her, Lieutenant Tanner reported, shields holding at 92%. Returning fire. The human vessel responded, quantum torpedoes streaking across the void toward the approaching cruisers. The first detonation momentarily outshone the system's star, vaporizing the lead collective vessel. "One down," Tanner announced with grim satisfaction. But Chen knew this skirmish was just the beginning. The collective would throw everything they had at the Indomitable once they realized what was happening. The real battle, humanity's last stand, was only just beginning. As the remaining collective cruisers closed in and alarms blared throughout the ship, Chen activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Commander Chen to all hands. The moment we've prepared for has arrived. Every one of you knows what's at stake. Today we fight not just for ourselves or for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist among the stars. Stand your posts. Execute your duties. History will remember this day." She clicked off the comm and turned to face the enemy vessels on the main display. The collective had always underestimated humanity's resilience, their creativity, their unwillingness to accept defeat. That mistake would cost them everything. "Bring us in," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the explosions now rocking the ship. "Full tactical display. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." The Indomitable shuddered as another volley of energy weapons struck its port side. Damage reports flooded in from across the ship, but Chen's focus remained locked on the approaching collective cruisers. 4 remaining, each formidable, but none a match for Earth's flagship, not individually, at least. "Target the second vessel," she ordered. "Full spread, relativistic cannons. The weapons officer complied without hesitation. The Indomitable's main guns, technology reverse-engineered from a downed collective warship, fired in perfect synchronization. Streams of accelerated particles moving at near-light speed crossed the void and tore through the alien cruiser's shields as if they weren't there. The vessel broke apart, secondary explosions rippling along its spine as its power core destabilized. "Two down," Tanner reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Remaining cruisers are adjusting their formation." Chen nodded. The collective was adaptive, intelligent. They wouldn't fall for the same tactics twice. "Bring us about. Heading 047, Mark 23. Lieutenant Rivera, status of the shipyard." "They're scrambling, Commander. Defense systems coming online. We've detected multiple launches, fighters and interceptors. ETA 4 minutes. Just enough time." Chen opened a secure channel to engineering. "Chief Wallace, we need everything you can give us. Push the engines beyond redline if you have to." The chief engineer's gruff voice came back immediately. "Already on it, Commander. You'll have your speed, but I can't promise the containment fields will hold if we take another direct hit." A grim reminder of their situation. The Indomitable's experimental drive was humanity's greatest technological achievement, and potentially its greatest vulnerability. If the containment fields failed, the resulting explosion would rival a small supernova. "Understood. Keep those fields stable." Chen turned to her XO. "Captain Reese, prepare the strike teams. We may need to adjust our insertion point." Reese acknowledged the order and left the bridge, passing Dr. Novak as she entered. The scientist's face was drawn, her eyes reflecting the weight of her creation. "Commander," she said without preamble, "I've been analyzing the collective's communications. They're not just defending the shipyard. They're trying to buy time. Something's happening in the central hub." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "The weapon?" "I believe so. Energy readings are consistent with final calibration sequences." This changed everything. If the collective managed to activate their planet killer before the Indomitable could deploy the quantum disruption device. "Lieutenant Park, adjust our approach vector. Take us in through the maintenance corridor on the station's equatorial plane." It was a riskier approach, but would get them to the central hub faster. "That's right through their heaviest defenses," Park warned. "I'm aware, Lieutenant." Chen's tone brooked no argument. "Execute the course change." As the massive human warship altered its trajectory, the collective forces reacted with visible alarm. The remaining cruisers broke formation, attempting to intercept the Indomitable's new course. In the tactical center, Major Torres watched the battle unfold with cold calculation. Her Marines were ready, enhanced with cutting-edge biotechnology that made them faster, stronger, and more resilient than unmodified humans, augmentations born of necessity during the Long War. She touched the neural interface at the base of her skull, feeling the familiar connection to her squad's tactical network. "Listen up," she addressed her troops. "Insertion plan has changed. We're going in hot, directly to the central hub. Primary objective remains the same. Secure the facility for Dr. Novak's team to deploy the device." Around her, 40 of Earth's finest soldiers checked their gear one final time. Many bore scars, both physical and psychological, from previous encounters with the collective. All had volunteered knowing the mission's importance and its dangers. Sergeant Lay, Torres's second-in-command, approached. "The men are ready, Major, but something's bothering me about this approach. The collective's defense patterns, they're too organized, almost like they were expecting us." Torres had noticed the same thing. The collective's response had been too quick, too precise. But there wasn't time to fully analyze the implications. "Noted, Sergeant. Keep your eyes open once we're aboard. This could be more complicated than we anticipated." Back on the bridge, Chen watched as the first wave of collective fighters engaged the Indomitable's defensive screen. The human vessel's point defense systems eliminated dozens of the small craft, but more kept coming. Fighter squadrons Alpha and Beta, "Launch now," she ordered. "Clear us a path." Earth's strike fighters, sleek, nimble craft piloted by the best pilots humanity had to offer, poured from the Indomitable's launch bays. Unlike their collective counterparts, these were not autonomous or drone-controlled. Earth had learned early in the conflict that human intuition and creativity in combat gave them an edge that AI pilots couldn't match. Lieutenant Rivera's console chimed in alert. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the shipyard. They're hailing us." Chen raised an eyebrow. In 20 years of conflict, the collective had never attempted communication during battle. "Put it through." The main display shifted to show a collective elder, one of the ruling caste. Its multifaceted eyes and iridescent exoskeleton marked it as a high-ranking official. "Human vessel," it began, its words translated by the ship's computer. "You have violated collective space. Your species has been judged and found wanting. Turn back now, or face complete annihilation." Standard collective rhetoric, but something in the elder's tone caught Chen's attention. There was an urgency there, almost fear. "This is Commander Eliza Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your collective started this war when you attacked our colonies without provocation. We're here to end it." The elder's mandibles clicked in what the ship's AI interpreted as derision. "You understand nothing, human. What we do for the greater harmony of the galaxy. Your species is chaos incarnate, unpredictable, violent, unwilling to accept your proper place in the cosmic order." "And what place would that be?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. "Extinction." The elder's compound eyes seemed to glitter. "It is already too late. Even now, our ultimate weapon charges. Soon, not just your colonies but Earth itself will be purged from existence, a necessary sacrifice for galactic stability." Chen cut the transmission. "Time to target." 2 minutes, Commander," Park responded. "Collective fighters are regrouping for another assault. Hold course. All power to forward shields." Chen opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, brace for impact." The bridge crew secured themselves as the Indomitable plunged toward the massive shipyard, now clearly visible through the viewports. The sprawling structure stretched for kilometers, a testament to the collective's technological prowess and industrial capacity. In engineering, Chief Wallace and his team worked frantically to maintain the ship's systems under increasing strain. The experimental drive hummed at frequencies that made teeth ache and vision blur, pushing the boundaries of what human technology could withstand. "Containment fields at 64% and dropping," Wallace reported. "Whatever you're planning, Commander, I suggest you do it quickly." In the launch bay, Dr. Novak supervised the final preparations for the quantum disruption device, a small, unassuming cylinder that belied its revolutionary purpose. Unlike conventional weapons designed to destroy, this device would fundamentally alter the collective on a quantum level, rewriting the very essence of their civilization. The ethics of such a weapon had been debated endlessly by Earth's remaining governments. Was humanity justified in using a technology that would irrevocably change another species? In the end, facing extinction, the Security Council had deemed it their only option. "Device is secure and ready for transport," Novak confirmed. "But Commander, I've been reviewing the collective's communications. There's something odd about their behavior. The way they're defending the shipyard doesn't match our intelligence on their standard protocols." Before Chen could respond, the ship lurched violently as multiple collective weapons found their mark. Warning klaxons blared throughout the vessel. "Direct hit," Tanner shouted over the noise. "Port shields failing. Hull breach on decks 5 through 8. Chen gripped her command chair as the ship stabilized. "Seal those sections. Deploy emergency force fields." 60 seconds to insertion point, Park announced, his voice tight with tension. The Indomitable had almost reached its target, but the cost was mounting. Chen could see it in the damage reports flooding her display, in the faces of her crew as they fought to keep the ship together for just a little longer. Just beyond the viewports, the massive shipyard loomed ever larger, its defenses blazing with energy as they tried to stop the human vessel's approach. Behind it, the dying red giant cast an ominous glow across the battlefield, as if the universe itself was bearing witness to this pivotal moment in galactic history. As the Indomitable prepared to breach the shipyard's outer defenses, Chen thought again of Earth, of blue skies and vast oceans, of forests and mountains and deserts, of 7 billion souls who had no idea that their fate was being decided in this distant star system. 30 seconds to insertion, Park announced. Brace for final approach. The final approach to the shipyard was chaos incarnate. Collective point defense systems fired in coordinated salvos, filling space with a lethal web of energy. The Indomitable's shields flickered dangerously as they absorbed impact after impact. Hull integrity at 47%. Lieutenant Rivera called out over the cacophony of alarms. "We can't take much more of this, Commander." Chen's eyes never left the tactical display. "We don't need to take much more, just a little longer." She opened a channel to the launch bay. "Major Torres, prepare your teams for immediate deployment. Departure in 30 seconds. In the bay, Torres and her Marines performed final equipment checks. Each soldier carried specialized gear designed to counter collective technology. Adaptive armor that could withstand their energy weapons, disruptors that could temporarily disable their neural networks. Most importantly, each Marine carried a neural dampener to protect against the collective's notorious mind-affecting technologies. "Remember," Torres addressed her team one final time. "Once we're inside, maintain calm discipline. The collective can track standard transmissions. Use the neural net only when absolutely necessary." She activated her helmet's display, watching as the countdown timer approached 0. "For Earth. For Earth," 40 voices echoed back. The ship shuddered violently as it finally made contact with the shipyard's outer hull. Massive boarding mechanisms deployed, cutting through the alien metal with molecular-edged blades. On the bridge, Chen received confirmation of successful breach. "Major Torres, you have a go. Godspeed." Torres led her Marines through the airlock and into the alien structure. The interior was bathed in the collective's characteristic blue-green bioluminescence, creating disorienting patterns of light and shadow. Unlike human designs with their clear pathways and signage, collective architecture followed organic, seemingly random patterns that could confuse invaders. But the Marines had trained for this. Their augmented vision could detect the subtle electromagnetic signatures that marked the station's primary conduits and pathways. Torres signaled her squad to split into 3 teams, each with a specific objective. Her team, with Dr. Novak and the device, would head directly for the central hub. "Contact front." Sergeant Leigh's voice came through the neural link as the first collective defenders appeared. Insectoid warriors nearly twice the height of a human, their carapaces reinforced with metallic alloys. Energy weapons integrated into their limbs began firing. The Marine squads responded with disciplined precision, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to outmaneuver the larger aliens. Specialized ammunition designed to penetrate collective armor found its mark. The first wave of defenders fell, but Torres knew there would be more. Many more. Back on the Indomitable, Chen monitored the Marine operation while directing the continuing space battle. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. 2 more collective cruisers had arrived, targeting the Indomitable's vulnerable engines. "Evasive pattern Delta," Chen ordered. "Keep them off our stern." "Commander," Lieutenant Riley interrupted from the science station, his voice unnaturally tight. "I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations from the central hub. The readings, they're off the charts." Chen felt her blood run cold. "The weapon?" "I believe so. But there's something else." Riley's hands flew across his console. "These energy signatures don't match our intelligence on the planet killer technology. They're similar, but different. More complex." Chief Wallace's voice came through from engineering, tension evident even through the static. "Commander, the containment fields are failing. We've got maybe 10 minutes before critical failure." Inside the shipyard, Torres and her team fought their way through increasingly dense resistance. The collective seemed to be converging on the central hub, exactly where the humans needed to go. They're protecting something, Dr. Novak observed as they paused at a junction to regroup. Something more important than we realized. Torres nodded grimly. Change of plan. Lay, take your squad and create a diversion at the auxiliary control center. Draw as many of them away as you can. Copy that, Major. Letty and his team peeled off, disappearing down a side corridor. Torres turned to the remaining Marines. We push through, no matter the cost. The device has to reach the central hub. They advanced into increasingly elaborate sections of the shipyard. Here, the architecture became more ornate, the lighting more deliberate. They were approaching something significant. A massive doorway loomed ahead, guarded by a contingent of collective elites, the most dangerous of their warrior caste. Behind the door, energy readings spiked to unprecedented levels. "This is it," Novak whispered. "Whatever they're protecting, it's behind that door." Torres assessed the situation with cold precision. The odds were bad and getting worse. 6 Marines left in her squad against at least 20 elites. The neural link brought grim news from the other teams. Heavy resistance, mounting casualties. On the Indomitable, Chen received Torres's situation report just as another barrage rocked the ship. Damage reports flooded in from all decks. The mighty vessel was being torn apart. "Commander," Tanner said quietly, "we need to consider our contingency plan." Everyone on the bridge knew what that meant. If the mission failed, if Torres couldn't deploy the device, the Indomitable would trigger its experimental drive's containment field to collapse deliberately. The resulting explosion would destroy the shipyard and everything within several million kilometers, including themselves. Chen's hand hovered over the emergency authorization panel. The ultimate sacrifice, the final option. That's when Dr. Novak's urgent transmission cut through the chaos. "Commander, I've managed to hack into their internal communications. The weapon, it's not what we thought. It's something else entirely. Something," her voice faltered, "something impossible." At that same moment, Torres and her team prepared to breach the final doorway. The Marines set charges while Novak made last-minute adjustments to the quantum device. Whatever waited on the other side, humanity's fate would be decided in the next few minutes. "Ready, Doctor?" Torres asked, her finger hovering over the detonator. Novak nodded, clutching the device that represented humanity's last, desperate hope. "Ready." Torres activated the neural link one final time. "Commander Chen, we're at the target location. Preparing final breach. Standing by for your order." On the bridge of the dying Indomitable, Chen closed her eyes for just a moment. Everything had led to this. Humanity's final stand against an enemy that had deemed them unworthy of existence. Whatever waited behind that door would determine not just the outcome of this battle, but the future of the human species. "Proceed, Major," she said at last. "And may God help us all." The breaching charges detonated in a cascade of controlled explosions, tearing through the massive doors that sealed the central hub. Torres led her Marines through the smoke, weapons at the ready, expecting the full fury of the collective's elite guard. Instead, they found silence. The cavernous chamber before them pulsed with energy, massive conduits snaking across walls and ceiling, all converging on a central platform bathed in blinding light. But there were no defenders, no last line of resistance. "I don't like this," whispered Corporal Hayes, the squad's point man. "Where are they?" Torres signaled the team to advance with caution, her augmented senses scanning for traps. Dr. Novak followed close behind, the quantum disruption device clutched tightly against her chest. The scientist's eyes widened as she took in the immense machinery surrounding them. "This technology, it's beyond anything in our intelligence reports," she said. "Some of these components aren't even collective design." As they approached the central platform, the light dimmed enough to reveal what lay at its center. Torres froze, her combat-hardened resolve momentarily shaken by what she saw. "Commander Chen," she transmitted, "you need to see this." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Chen activated the visual feed from Taurus's helmet cam. The image made her grip her command chair so tightly her knuckles went white. At the center of the platform stood what appeared to be a massive temporal gateway, similar to experimental designs Earth's scientists had theorized, but never successfully built. And within its swirling vortex, barely contained by the alien technology, was unmistakably another ship. An Earth ship. That's impossible, Chen breathed. The vessel trapped in the vortex was clearly of human design, but unlike anything in Earth's current fleet. More advanced, sleeker, and emblazoned on its hull was an unfamiliar insignia. Earth Defense Force, but surrounded by stars in a pattern not matching any known constellation. Dr. Novik's voice came through with barely contained shock. "Commander, I'm accessing their systems. This is a temporal extraction device. They're pulling this ship from somewhere else, or someone else." Before Chen could process this revelation, Lieutenant Rivera interrupted. "Commander, multiple new contacts appearing throughout the system, massive energy signatures, collective reinforcements arriving in force." A new transmission cut through all channels. The collective elder they had spoken with earlier. "You see now, humans. You understand the futility of your resistance. What you call our planet killer is merely the gateway to our ultimate victory. We have reached across time itself to ensure your species' extinction." Chen watched in horror as the ship in the vortex began to materialize more fully. Its design was unmistakably human, but the weapons systems she could identify were decades beyond current Earth technology. "They're stealing our future technology," she realized aloud. "They're reaching forward in time to take ships from an Earth that survived their attacks, that advanced and thrived. And they're using those ships against us now." Chief Wallace's voice broke through her stunned silence. "Commander, containment fields at critical levels. We have 7 minutes before catastrophic failure." On the platform, Torres and her team had spread out to secure the perimeter, while Dr. Novik worked feverishly to understand the alien technology. "The quantum device," Novik transmitted urgently. "It won't work as planned. Not against this. This technology is operating on principles I've never seen before." Torres felt cold dread settle in her stomach. "Are you saying the mission has failed?" "No," Novik replied, her voice suddenly firm. "I'm saying we need to change the mission. This gateway, it works both ways. Instead of disrupting the collective's neural network, we could use the device to destabilize the temporal field." "And what would that do?" Torres demanded. "In theory, it could collapse the gateway and prevent them from extracting the technology. But there's more." Novik's hands flew across the alien interface she'd hacked into. "According to these readings, this isn't their first extraction. They've been doing this for months, pulling technology from various points in humanity's future timeline." In a flash of clarity, Torres understood. "That's how they've stayed ahead of us. They've been cheating, stealing advancements we haven't even made yet." Back on the Indomitable, Chen faced an impossible choice. The ship was dying around her. Collective reinforcements were closing in. And now, the revelation that their enemy had been manipulating time itself to ensure humanity's defeat. "Lieutenant Riley," she called to the science officer. "If Dr. Novak collapses that gateway while a vessel is being extracted, what happens?" Riley's face went pale as he ran the calculations. "Temporal backlash, Commander. Catastrophic disruption across multiple timelines. It could ripple forward and backward, affecting both past and future events related to both species, including this battle, this war. Potentially, there's no way to predict the exact effects." Chen opened a direct channel to Torres. "Major new mission parameters. Dr. Novak is to reconfigure the quantum device to collapse that gateway, but with a targeted approach. We need to sever the collective's connection to our future timeline without destroying the ship they're extracting." "Why preserve their weapon?" Torres questioned. Chen's eyes fixed on the ship in the vortex, the physical proof that somewhere, someone, Humanity had survived and thrived despite the collective's best efforts. Because that ship isn't their weapon, Major. It's our hope, proof that we have a future worth fighting for. She took a deep breath. And I intend to send it home. As if in response to her words, the trapped vessel's running lights suddenly flared to life. Through the temporal distortion, Chen could make out movement on its bridge, human figures. The crew was still alive inside, fighting against the collective's control. 3 minutes to containment failure, Chief Wallace warned. Chen stood, her decision made. All hands, prepare for emergency protocols. We're not just fighting for our present anymore. We're fighting for our future. Literally. Dr. Novak worked with desperate speed, her fingers dancing across the alien interface as she reprogrammed the quantum device. Torres and her remaining Marines formed a protective perimeter, weapons trained on every entrance to the chamber. 60 seconds, Novak muttered. I need 60 more seconds. The chamber suddenly blazed with light as emergency force fields activated. Collective reinforcements had arrived, their energy weapons striking the barriers with increasing intensity. The force fields wouldn't hold for long. Whatever you're doing, Doctor, do it faster, Torres urged, watching as cracks began to form in the energy barriers. On the Indomitable, Chen initiated the ship's final protocol. All remaining personnel to evacuation pods. Set autopilot to maintain current position. Commander, Lieutenant Park protested. There aren't enough pods for everyone. I'm aware, Lieutenant. Essential personnel only. Her eyes met each of her bridge officers. It's been an honor serving with all of you. As evacuation alarms sounded throughout the dying vessel, Shen opened a secure channel to Chief Wallace. Begin power transfer from life support to shields. Route everything we have left to protect Major Torres's position. Understood, Commander, came the grim reply. Though I should mention, the containment field stabilized somewhat when we reduced power to non-essential systems. We might have bought ourselves another 5 minutes. 5 minutes, it would have to be enough. In the central hub, Novak completed her reprogramming. It's ready. But there's a problem. The device needs to be placed directly inside the temporal gateway to collapse it properly. Torres looked at the swirling vortex, at the future Earth ship still caught in its grasp. That's a one-way trip. Not necessarily. Novak pointed to the ship. If we can time it perfectly, the device will disrupt the collective's control first. There might be a brief window where the ship regains autonomous function before the gateway collapses. Torres understood immediately. You're suggesting we get on board. Hitch a ride back to their timeline. It's theoretically possible. The force fields protecting the chamber flickered dangerously. Torres made her decision. Team, new objective. We're boarding that vessel. As the Marines prepared for a desperate dash across the platform, the future ship's external communication system suddenly activated. A voice, human, female, eerily familiar, broke through the chaos. Indomitable actual. This is Admiral Chen of the ES Defiance. If you can hear this, hold your position. Repeat, hold your position. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Commander Chen froze at the sound of her own voice. Older, hardened by years she hadn't yet lived. This is Commander Chen. We read you, Defiance. Listen carefully. We don't have much time. The Admiral's voice was steady despite the obvious strain. The quantum device your team carries is already part of our timeline. It created a temporal anchor point when it entered the gateway. We've been fighting the collective's control systems from inside, waiting for this moment. You knew we were coming. Because we remember being you. This isn't the first loop, Eliza. The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. How many times? Too many to count. But this time is different. Your Dr. Novak's modifications to the device are exactly what we needed. We can break the cycle. In the chamber, Torres and Novak exchanged shocked glances as they listened to the transmission. Major Torres, the Admiral continued, on my mark. Throw the device into the gateway. Then get your team clear of the platform. But we thought, Trust me. I know what you thought. I once stood exactly where you're standing. The force fields failed. Collective warriors poured into the chamber from all sides. Now, Major. Now. Torres hurled the quantum device into the heart of the vortex. It passed through the gateway's threshold and made contact with the hull of the Defiance. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the collective. The vortex's energy suddenly inverted, flowing outward in a wave that passed harmlessly through the humans, but struck the collective warriors with devastating force. Throughout the shipyard, through the attacking fleet, the energy wave spread, disrupting the collective's neural networks and communication systems. The Defiance began to shift, its form becoming more solid as it fought against the temporal pull. "Get clear," Admiral Chen commanded. "The gateway is collapsing." Torres and her team retreated as the platform began to break apart. The chamber shook violently as the temporal energies destabilized. On the Indomitable, Commander Chen watched in awe as the collective fleet surrounding them suddenly fell into disarray, their coordinated attack dissolving into chaos. "What's happening?" she demanded. "The quantum wave," Riley explained, his voice filled with wonder. "It's not just disrupting the gateway. It's targeting collective neural patterns specifically. It's severing their hive mind." Through the fragmenting connection, Admiral Chen's voice came one last time. "Remember, Commander, this isn't victory yet. It's a second chance. Use it wisely." The gateway collapsed with a final surge of energy. The Defiance vanished, but not before something small ejected from its hull, arcing through the collapsing vortex and landing on the platform near Torres. As the chamber began to crumble around them, Torres snatched up the object, a small data core with Earth Defense Force markings. She and her remaining Marines fought their way back toward extraction, the collective forces around them in disarray, individuals rather than a hive for the first time in their existence. On the Indomitable, Chief Wallace reported with disbelief. "Commander, the containment fields are regenerating. I don't understand how, but they're stabilizing on their own." Chen didn't understand either, but she seized the opportunity. "All power to engines. Get us clear of the shipyard and prepare to retrieve our ground teams." As the human vessel pulled away from the disintegrating station, Chen stared at the tactical display in amazement. The collective fleet, once an unstoppable force, had devolved into individual ships without coordination or purpose. Some fled, others drifted aimlessly. The fearsome enemy that had driven humanity to the brink of extinction had, in an instant, lost the very thing that made them formidable. Hours later, with Torres and the surviving Marines safely recovered, Chen held the mysterious data core in her hands. "Have you accessed it yet?" she asked Novak. The scientist shook her head. "It's locked to your biometrics, Commander. Your future self made sure only you could open it." Chen pressed her palm against the device. It hummed to life, projecting a holographic message. And once again, she found herself staring at an older version of herself. "If you're seeing this," the Admiral began, "then we've finally broken the loop. The collective has lost its greatest advantage, unity. But this isn't the end. It's simply a new beginning." The hologram smiled, a weary expression that spoke of countless battles across time itself. "The data in this core contains everything you need to rebuild, to prepare, because they'll be back, Eliza. Different, but still dangerous. And next time, humanity needs to be ready." The message ended, but the data transfer continued. Schematics for technologies decades beyond current human capabilities, tactical analyses of collective behavior patterns, and coordinates for dozens of habitable worlds not yet discovered. "It seems," Chen said quietly, "that we've been given a future." Torres studied the schematics with growing amazement. "Not just given, Commander. We earned it. Across time itself." As the Indomitable limped toward home, carrying the seeds of humanity's rebirth, Chen gazed out at the stars, no longer points of terror, but beacons of possibility. The battle was over. The war had changed, and humanity, against all odds, had been granted what the collective had tried so desperately to deny them: a second chance. 3 months later, Commander Chen stood at the observation deck of the newly established Lunar Defense Headquarters, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. The blue-green planet seemed more precious than ever after coming so close to losing it entirely. "The Security Council is assembled and waiting, Commander," Captain Reese announced from behind her. Chen nodded, turning away from the view. "Thank you, David. And it's Admiral now, remember. Still feels strange to say it." Reese smiled, the scar across his cheek pulling tight. "You earned it. We all did." Together, they walked through the gleaming corridors of humanity's new military nerve center, a facility that would have taken decades to build without the advanced construction techniques from the Defiance's data core. All around them, engineers and scientists worked to implement technologies that had once been mere theoretical concepts. The council chamber fell silent as Chen entered. 12 faces turned toward her, the leaders of Earth's remaining nations, united now by shared survival. Admiral Chen, Council Chair Alvarez greeted her. "We've reviewed your proposal for the Sentinel program. The resource allocation is substantial, as is the threat we still face," Chen replied, taking her seat. "The collective may be fragmented, but our long-range scouts report they're already adapting to their new existence. Some factions are forming alliances, establishing new hierarchies. They're evolving." Dr. Novak, newly appointed as Director of Temporal Research, activated the holographic display. The data from the future timeline confirms Admiral Chen's assessment. Without their hive mind, the collective has lost much of their technological advantage, but they're becoming something new, potentially more dangerous because they're less predictable. "And the temporal distortions?" asked the representative from the African Union. "Have they stabilized?" Novak nodded. "The quantum wave caused significant disruption to the fabric of space-time, but our monitoring stations show the ripples are settling. We don't believe there's any risk of further timeline contamination." Major Torres, her artificial eye now replaced with an advanced prosthetic based on Defiance technology, leaned forward. "What we need to understand is that we haven't won a war. We've simply survived the first battle. The data core gives us an advantage, but how we use it matters." Chen looked around the table. "Which brings us to the heart of today's meeting. Do we use this technology purely for defense, or do we take the fight to what remains of the collective?" The debate that followed was passionate but focused. This was no longer a room of politicians protecting national interests, but survivors planning for humanity's future. When the vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would rebuild its defenses first, then establish a network of colonies on the worlds identified in the data core. Only then, from a position of strength, would they address the fragmented collective. Later, as Chen and Torres walked along the headquarters promenade, the Major posed the question that had been on everyone's mind. "Do you think she was telling the truth? Your future self?" Chen considered this. "About which part?" "That we broke the loop. That this timeline is something new." Chen paused, looking out at the stars. The same stars where, in another time, another Eliza Chen had fought the same battle with a different outcome. "I've been studying the personal logs included in the data core," she said finally. "Details only I would know. Things that happened exactly as I remember them. And others that didn't, or haven't yet." She turned to Torres. "I believe we're forging a new path, but I also believe we need to be ready for the possibility that time isn't as linear as we'd like to think." Torres nodded thoughtfully. "The engineers completed the memorial today. Would you like to see it?" Together they walked to the headquarters' central atrium, where a simple wall of polished lunar stone now stood. Etched into its surface were the names of those lost during the battle at the collective shipyard, and all those lost in the years of conflict before it. Chen placed her hand against the cool surface, finding the name of Lieutenant Rivera, who had remained at his post until the end. Chief Wallace, who had given his life to stabilize the Indomitable's containment fields long enough for the mission to succeed. So many others. "You know," Torres said quietly, There's a theory that every decision we make creates a new timeline. That somewhere, there's a reality where we failed, where the Defiance never made it through. Perhaps, Chen replied. But in this timeline, our timeline, humanity survives. We adapt. We move forward. She looked up at the Earth hanging in the lunar sky. And we remember the cost. As night fell across the lunar base, lights began to come on across the surface. Beacons in the darkness. Throughout the facility, the survivors of the Indomitable worked alongside scientists and soldiers from Earth, building the foundation for humanity's new chapter among the stars. The war had changed them all. It had taken much, but it had also given them something precious. Perspective. The knowledge that in the vast tapestry of space and time, humanity's greatest strength was not technology or weapons, but the stubborn, relentless determination to endure. And in the silence of her private quarters, Admiral Eliza Chen opened a small compartment in her desk and withdrew a simple medallion, one that had never existed until 3 months ago. One side showed the Earth, the other, stars in a pattern that matched no known constellation. Not yet, anyway. She closed her fingers around it, a smile touching her lips. The future was unwritten now, and they would write it together.